Imogen's Journey by B. Fleetwood, 4 stars. Recap. Imogen goes to her home planet. Review. I couldn't put too much in that recap because I didn't want to give too much away. There's some solid world building highlighting the differences in the two worlds, but our villains are all dastardly with figurative twirly moustaches, so it was interesting to read Leo's character reveal. I like the ending very much. It gives us the uplift for Book 3 and the grains of hope for retaliation because, let's face it, Book 2 doesn't look too good for our heroes. Look forward to seeing what happens next. The Last Secret by Lana Melyan, 5 stars. Recap. Nikki kicks ass and rescues Nate. Review. Now we're cooking with gas. It was fast-paced, action-packed, and that cliffhanger ending. I mean, we knew it was coming, but we were still rooting for the good guys. Good character interplay, and I'm desperate to know what happens next. Promise of the Opal by Lyra Shanti. Recap. Sam and John are dreaming of past lives where they are lovers. Then they meet and fall in love, but things are not that simple. Review. I really enjoyed the first part of the book, but the last section seems a little rushed and unfinished. Throughout the book, the characters had these beautifully expressive dreams, and then at the end they talked through flashbacks which lost the impact. Sam's boyfriend gets an intense I'll get her back scene, and then gets a brief drunken flurry and is not heard of again, which felt odd. We saw Sam and John's reaction, but not his. John's ex also had a convenient turn up then disappear again scene, and that man is a saint. When the past lives were written so well, and Sam's inner turmoil and John's shame handled so well, it made these brief secondary character appearances less impactful, especially when their past lives were more flashed out and interesting. I think there will be a book 2, and I want to find out what happens to everyone, so I should be keeping an eye out. The Watchmaker's Daughter by C.J. Archer, 5 stars. Recap. India Steele has lost her father, her home, and her fiancé. Then she meets mysterious Mr. Glass, who is looking for a watchmaker. Review. I love how there is so much scope going forwards, and yet we still feel like we know our characters well. Historical, supernatural, suspense, romance. What more could you ask for? Mother of Floods by Madeline F. White, 4 stars. Recap. After the loss of her husband, Martha finds spiritual comfort in drumming, but her actions begin the catalyst that will end the world. Review. It took me a long time to read this book because I found I could only read one chapter at a time in order to have a break and digest everything properly. Plus, I started reading just before lockdown, and for several weeks I couldn't read anything at all. It's a jam-packed book, and at one point I was really struggling, but then I attended the online book launch with the author, and listening to her explain that it was really the knitting together of different stories helped me compartmentalise what I was reading. I think the author could have even split out the stories and written 4 books in a series based on the depth of content. It's a very spiritual book with references to lots of different religious beliefs. I think I would have to read this book a couple of times to really understand and absorb everything properly. I really enjoyed the imagery, and Martha was a particularly grounded character who I could relate to. Imogen's Destiny by B. Fleetwood, 4 stars. Recap. Imogen must go back to her home planet to try and save her friends, family and Earth. Review. They had a plan, then they were foiled. They had another plan, then they were foiled. Throw in a couple of major character deaths before you're even 3/4 of the way and it looks bleak for our heroine. And that's great! We don't want to know that we're going to have a happy ending. We want to suffer and despair with our characters. There are a few places of convenient dialogue which jarred an otherwise good-flowing book. Kudos to the use of Lord of the Rings in the rallying speech. And I really liked how Naomi's tractor travels affected the whole plot of the trilogy. Really well thought out story arc, providing lots of moments. 5-Minute Vacations by Cindy Michael, 4 stars. Recap. A series of very short imagination getaways. Review. A different kind of collection of shorts, these are designed to take you away from it all and give you a break. My favourite vacations were the baking ones, as sense memory for me was so strong. A nice book to dip into when you need it.